King, it's a lot of suckers out here with their money, and you can't be no sucker out here with your money.
Bro, I ain't no sucker. Bet you I don't.
Okay. What's assets?
Assets are things that bring money into your bank account.
What's liabilities?
Liabilities are things that take money out your bank account.
Entrepreneurship is the act of becoming an entrepreneur. What's entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is a process of setting up a business or businesses.
Taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is a person that organizes and operates a business or businesses.
Also taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's financial mean?
Money.
And what's risk mean?
Chance.
Come on. What does it mean to own stock?
When you own a share of a company.
Come on. What's real estate investing?
Real estate investing is when you invest in a immovable property.
What's the two types of real estates?
Commercial real estate and residential real estate.
What's commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate is property for businesses and workspace, like an office, store, or land.
And what's residential real estate?
Property to live on, like a house, apartment, or condominium.
Come on. It comes with extra fees when you have real estate, you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Daddy tells you how many times he pays his state property tax a year.
Once a year.
What's the type of maintenance fee?
Cutting grass.
Come on. What's HOA?
Homeowner Association.
And what comes along with that?
HOA fee.
Come on. And when it comes to the brokerage percent, what percent is that?
7.
Come on. What's equity?
Equity is the difference between what your business is worth minus what you owe on it.
Also assets minus
Liabilities and debt.
Good job. What's credit report?
Credit report is like a report card letting you know how well you did by paying your money back you borrowed.
And how does credit affect your life?
The better you keep your credit, the more opportunities you'll have to get funding.
And what? Large purchases like?
A car or a house.
Come on. And always repay what you
owe.
Because if you owe somebody, that means you're in
debt.
And you never want to be in
debt.
Because that means you
owe somebody.
And we don't never owe
somebody.
Because that ain't what suckers do, period. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Good afternoon and welcome to Your Money Matters. You are missing George Demery because today is Women's Day from a financial standpoint anyway. We're going to be talking about women and finance. My name is Ivy Brito. I am an agency owner of State Farm Insurance, and we have a special guest here today. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
My name is Hillary Pursley. I am an Edward Jones financial advisor. My office is out on Dixie Highway near the Watterson Expressway, and I help folks with retirement, investments, saving for their kids' future and their college, and all the other financial goals that people want to achieve.
So we decided today we want to keep the topics relevant, and one of the things that we thought was very relevant was talking about women and finances. There are single moms, single women, there are divorced women, there are widowed women, and we want to make sure that we address some of the topics that are close to them. So we're going to talk about a broad range of things, and Hillary's going to be our expert topic resident today. And the basic things that we're going to talk about, there's 5 key things. We're going to talk about where am I today? Where would I like to be today? You can't get somewhere if you don't know where you're starting from. Then we're going to talk about, is it really possible for me to get there? Can I get there? And if it is possible, which it is, we'll talk about how do I get there? And once I do get there, how do I stay on track? So those are 5 key things. Get ready. It's going to be really exciting. And Hillary, what I want to start out with today, she's got some great material here. It's just a little quiz. It's 3 questions. And if you're listening with us today, just go ahead and type in either fact or fiction. So I'm going to read 3 items, and then we're going to spend a minute talking about them. So the first statement, fact or fiction, nearly 60% of working individuals have calculated how much they need for retirement. Fact or fiction? Type it in. Next question. Women are about 3 times as likely as men to report they have quit a job to care for a family member. Fact or fiction? Last question. Nearly 60% of women will be solely responsible for their finances at some point in their lives. Fact or fiction? Okay, now for the answers. Hillary, nearly 60% of working individuals have calculated how much they need for retirement.
That is fiction because only about 38% have calculated that. So most people don't even know how much they need for retirement. They don't know how to figure out what they need for retirement. And so two ways to help with that is either A, use a financial advisor, or B, on most 401k plan websites, there's a nice calculation. In fact, a lot of times they're going to tell you what you need for retirement based on their own numbers that they've calculated. And it's a good way to kind of say, oh, am I on track? Am I not on track? But just knowing where you need to be can help you start a plan to get there.
So if they use one of these calculators, what can you just name a couple of things that the calculator is going to ask them to put in?
Yep, it's based on their income currently.
Okay.
It's also based on their age that they want to retire. So if you're 45 and you plan to retire at 65, which is kind of a general idea, a 401k calculator or website may say, okay, you're going to need 75% of your income today when you retire. And based on their own calculation for Social Security, this is how much you need to have saved.
Okay.
And so if you're a Humana employee, any company, some of the hospitals have Fidelity accounts. Both of those websites have that already on their website.
Okay.
And they tell you this number, and it may look a little like a stretch, but at the same time, it gives you something to work toward. They'll tell you put $500 more a month in your account, but that may not be something you can achieve at this point, but putting $100 a month might help.
Okay. So the questions are pretty intuitive, nothing they have to do research on or get prepared for before they go to that calculator.
Exactly.
Okay. Second question that we asked was, women are 3 times as likely as men to report they have quit a job to care for a family member. Fact or fiction?
And that is absolutely fact. And many of us, know of either folks who have stayed at home to care for their children. Most of the time, that's the woman. And then, too, when they have aging parents, if there's 2 brothers and a sister, most of the time, the sister is the one that steps out of the workforce, goes home to care for the family if that's necessary. And the biggest part with women on this is it just drastically changes their retirement and how much they're able to save for retirement. It changes how much they accumulate to Social Security, and it also accumulates how much money, or it affects how much they can earn when they get back in the workforce. Because being out for 5 years or 10 years, or some folks, maybe 18 years, it just really pushes back the amount of income that you can earn had you been working all those years.
Which, if you're a single parent, even if you're not a parent, because you are out of the workforce, then that compromises what you have at retirement, which it makes it a little bit more of a challenge.
Yes.
So hopefully today we'll be able to give you some options to make sure that you are adequately prepared for retirement. So last question, nearly 60%, that's a big number, 60% of women will be solely responsible for their finances at some point in their lives. Fact or fiction?
That is actually fiction because it is a lot higher.
Oh,
80 to 90% of women will be solely responsible for their finance. And it's really more due to women living longer. So those that do have spouses, they tend to outlive those spouses. It's also because divorce is prevalent, and sometimes people don't remarry after they've divorced. Women more times than men. And some just never get married, or they just stay single a lot longer. So at some point in their life, then they've been totally responsible for their finances. And that's why women need to be more concerned and more engaged in learning about how to manage their money, how to spend, how to budget, and how to save, so that when they do become the person solely responsible, they're ready.
And I have a lot of clients, I don't know about you, who, and we've talked about this on other shows, but there are many people who rely on Social Security as their sole source of income. And that's very hard to do because it was meant to be a supplement. Back when Social Security started, a lot of people had pensions, and so Social Security was something that they added to that. But now pensions are very rare,
Yes.
and because we're living longer and we're not in the workforce as long as your typical male, it really puts us in a bind. So we're going to get down to some nitty gritty and help you. So I hope you have something to take notes with, because we're going to go through those 5 things that I talked about before. And so the first question is, where am I today? What does my financial situation look like? So Hillary, where do we start?
Okay. First, you have to start with your spending. And everybody hates to hear that word budget, but it's not really about budgeting. It's more about spending. What am I spending and what do I bring in every month? And so if you spend more than you bring in every month, it leads to, credit card accumulation. It leads to, maybe paying bills on a slower time frame. So knowing how much you have, how much you're spending each month, and how much you have after you've paid all of your bills will help you kind of start. Then you want to know where all of your investments and savings accounts are. So
Okay.
you want to know, what's in your 401k at work. What options do you have at work? Do you have a stock purchase plan? Now, Ford has a stock purchase plan. Other companies have, Humana has a stock purchase plan. If you put a little in there, they're going to give you a discount to buy their stock. So knowing what you have available and what you've already started purchasing or buying into will help. Knowing where that IRA is that you rolled over.
So I
10
should
years
put
ago.
all of this on paper
Yes.
so I can make a list, get my paper, where am I today,
Yes.
and go through first the budget.
Yes. First, know what you're spending.
So now, about that budget thing,
Mm-hmm.
what if I don't have enough money, or what if I'm living on the edge? What kinds of things do I need to look at as discretionary that I might be able to do away with?
Yes. So anybody who's ever heard me speak before, and I speak a lot among our community, it knows about the latte factor. And if you don't know about the latte factor, I'll just tell you. So the latte factor came around when Starbucks started
Okay.
becoming very popular, and people were paying $4 for coffee that they used to make at home for 40 cents.
Okay.
So they talked about, everybody has a latte factor. It's probably not Starbucks for most people, but for some people it's eating out. For some people it might be going to the
Mani
Patties.
Get the mani
Yes.
patty. Okay.
Yes, and maybe you definitely need one every few weeks, but maybe not every 2 weeks. So it's something that you're spending your money on somewhat frivolously and a lot, that you could start pulling that money back from spending it on Starbucks, or maybe a pedicure once a month instead of twice a month.
Okay.
And putting that away. Just if you're saving $4 a day, 5 days a week, that's $1,040 a year. So this is
Wow.
if you were using the latte factor, or you're spending even vending machine money. People are spending money at the vending machine like this. Not so much now that we're not in the offices, but $4 a day, 5 days a week, $1,040 a year that you can put away, invest it over 20 years. That would earn you about $65,000 more towards your goals.
So for some people, that sounds like it might be unachievable. It sounds like a really big number.
With
But
a
if you-
65,000?
If you break it down to the daily savings,
Exactly. Yes.
it makes a lot more sense. So you said, what was it, $1?
$4 a day,
$4 a day.
5 days a week. So
5 days
that's
a week.
$20 a week
Okay.
that you're spending. So ultimately, it becomes about almost $100 a month.
Okay.
is what you're saying.
Which sounds reasonable.
Which sounds reasonable, especially when you look at, if you spent $10 today for lunch, if you could cut that down to $5 for lunch, then there's your, $4 or $5 that you can save.
So maybe I bring my lunch 2 days a week instead of eating out 5 days a week.
Exactly. And so that gives you that extra $1,000 to put away. And so while yes, the $65,000 to me sounds like a lot, the $4 a day maybe not so much. And so just doing something a little bit over a long period of time will yield just crazy results. I mean, it's amazing.
Okay. And the first couple of shows I did, one of the things, if you have been with us, we talked about changing your mindset about money and changing your behavior. So the things that Hillary's talking about, changing your eating habits and sacrificing a latte or a Starbucks or a pedicure, just cutting it in half, not cutting it out totally. That's what I mean when we talk about changing your behavior. So it's a little bit will go a long, long way. So we got that talked about. Now let's talk a little bit. There's another thing on here, where am I today, that I circled, and that's about Social Security. Can I find out how much my Social Security benefit is going to be today?
Yes.
And
yes.
how do I do that?
You can do that on ssa.gov. So the Social Security Administration, you do a retirement estimate. And again, you guys, these are things that I do with my clients. And of course, I'm not, necessarily here to advise you to come see me, but these are things that your financial professionals that you work with have access to that maybe you're not able to find on your own. But again, ssa.gov, you go in there, you do a retirement estimator. It does ask for your information. They want your social, they want your name, your birth date, and where you were born. And then they're going to give you, based on your work history and earnings history, they're going to give you what your estimated Social Security is. And you can put the year you want to retire. I want to retire at 66.
Oh, okay.
You can put, I'm going to work until 70, or I want to retire at 62. And it's going to give you what you would earn at 62, what you'd earn at full retirement age. And then that just helps you better plan for retiring maybe at 67 instead of when most folks want to retire around 62, and some want to retire at 55.
Right.
Well, you don't get Social Security before 62. So let's at least get to 62. But once you know that, and you can check that every year. They used to send a green and white envelope
in the
out.
mail. I used to get those all the time, and then they just stopped. And then I found out that it was online.
Yes, you got to go online to get it. And that's how.
So where you are today, so you got to do your current budget, and then you look at, in order to do that, you got to know where all your investments are housed. And then you want to know what your Social Security is going to be. So that's kind of give me a snapshot of my expenses and the income that I may possibly have coming in.
Right.
The other thing that's on here is how much life insurance. So does everybody need to have life insurance, and how much should they have? What kind? That's a big question.
I was going to say, well, you're the insurance expert. So, while yes, you need life insurance, and life insurance is not really for you. You know this.
Right.
It's for your family. It's for the person that you're leaving the money to. So, really, as far as your own retirement goal, is not necessarily, life insurance is not absolutely necessary for your retirement goal. However, if you have a retirement goal for you and your spouse, or you have a plan to pay off your children's college education, either before you retire or pay for it for them, and you pass early, then you want to make sure you've got that already budgeted in so that it doesn't affect what you've left for your family.
Right.
So the life insurance piece is so important on so many different ways. But disability and long-term care insurance can help with your retirement plan, because if something happens and you go on disability, or you're not able to work at the same capacity you were able to work before, if you have that disability insurance, it helps supplement some of your income, avoids getting into some probably big debt, and also maybe help you still save a little for retirement.
One of the top reasons that homes go into foreclosure is because people get sick and are unable to work, and they can't pay their mortgage, and they lose their home. So when I talk to my clients, one of the things I tell them is that disability is like the foundation. So you have all these things, and all the things that you have are based on the income that you bring in: your home, your car, your clothes. Everything that you do basically is based on how much money you're able to bring in. So when you get sick and you can't work, I call it the paycheck protector. So if you've got disability insurance, then that will kick in to take the void that is left by you not having a paycheck. So that's the first one. So hopefully we've done a really good job of helping you to understand what you need to do to find out, where am I today? Next question is, okay, now, where would I like to be? I told somebody this: if you get a call from a relative that's out of town and they say, I need to get to your house, you can't tell them how to get there before you find out where they are. So that's what this is. So where am I today? Now, where would I like to be? So Hillary, how do I figure out that piece? Is it a number? Is it a retirement year? What exactly is that?
Sometimes it's all of those things, but sometimes it's just a goal. You know, there's a lot of people that want to pay off their house before they even consider retiring. So maybe you've got 15 years left on your mortgage and you're 50 and you say, okay, I'll work till 65. But if I could pay my house off at 62, then maybe I'll retire then. So where you'd like to be is, these are the things I want to accomplish either before I retire or at retirement. I want to have enough money saved where I have the option to work. So work is optional.
Okay.
But also I have, you know, enough to pay all the bills that I know I'm going to probably have, and then have an extra $2,000 a month coming in to travel. So this is when you start really thinking about, and it's hard to do that sometimes at 35, but it gets a lot easier to think about where you like to be at 55. The problem is at 55, it's a little later than you probably want to start just planning or starting to plan. However, over the years, again, just doing a little bit for a long period of time will get you close to being ready. And then that extra planning you start to do when you realize it's important or it's necessary, then that will give you kind of an idea of where you'd like to be. So if you pay $3,000 out a month now, and you're not going to have your house paid off, or maybe you're not buying a house, and so in retirement, you're still going to probably pay $3,000 a month. How do we get, I want to be able to have $3,000 a month coming in, and that's where you'd like to be.
So you said something that I've heard differing opinions on, paying off your home. So some people talk about paying off your house. I know some people are Dave Ramsey fans and some people are not, just based on some of the things. And he is a big proponent of paying off your house. But I've heard other people say, well, if you pay off your house, then you don't get the tax breaks. So you really need to keep a mortgage in retirement so you can get that tax break at tax time. What's your viewpoint on that?
Okay, so because so much has changed with tax rules and tax laws, the biggest thing being that standard deduction has gone up so much. So 3 years ago, 2017, you got, standard deduction at $6,000. I'm going to make it up because I'm not a tax advisor.
Right.
As a single person, and maybe your interest for your mortgage did help, and your tithes for your church and all those things that you could deduct did get you over that $6,000 threshold, so you were able to deduct more from your income.
Right.
But once that changed in 2018, and now that single is $12,000, I believe, or something like that, then you now have so much standard deduction that even if you have a small mortgage in retirement, that interest you're paying is not going to help taxes at all.
Okay.
And so, again, it may be something you would consult a tax advisor more for, but at the same time, think about living rent-free. So if you pay your mortgage off and your mortgage is $1,000 a month, and at 65 you're ready to retire, wouldn't it be easier to retire at 65 without that extra $1,000 a month to pay?
Absolutely.
And then you've got the next 30 years of retirement.
Right. So the only thing you would be paying is really your taxes and your insurance on the house.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that does not go away.
That does not go away.
So when you look at, just to kind of recap, where you would like to be, you want to look at things like, what are your goals during retirement? Do you want to travel? Do you want to go on trips with the family? Do you just want a sense of security? Maybe you don't like to travel. Do you want just financial freedom to go out to eat. So whatever that lifestyle is, you really need to think about, okay, what does my retirement years look like? And that's going to help you with that number.
Yes.
And of course, you can always talk to your financial advisor because we're going to go through a lot. And they basically, any financial advisor will have these same principles, and they will help you get to that number. Because one thing that we want to do, and the goal is to make sure that during retirement, because people are living longer, I think the average retiree may be, what, 20 years of retirement, 15 to 20 years. So you want to make sure you don't run out of money. And so a financial advisor is going to help you. We're accustomed to accumulating. We've been told to save, save, save. But when it comes to spending that money, we want to make sure that we're using the proper vehicles to make sure that that money lasts through retirement. So where am I today? Where would I like to be? Now, Hillary, how do I get there?
Okay, so how you get there is just really the amount you're saving on a monthly or weekly basis, and the vehicles in which you're saving. So the types of investments you're using to get to that retirement goal. And a lot of it, most people, their biggest savings asset is generally their 401k. So what's even more important is knowing what's in that 401k that you're investing in.
How much should I put in there? I mean, I got people who have 1%. I have people who have 6%. I have people who don't put anything in. How do I know what that number is?
So just based on, doesn't matter what you need in retirement, but based on what you're going to get from your company, that's where you need to start. So if your company is matching you 3%, you need to put in 3%. And some people say, that's too much. I'm not going to be able to do that. By the time you even realize the funds are out of your check, you have been able to spend less, period. You've been able to use less from your check. So you just do it and then think about it later. Basically.
So just because we calculate 3%, we're not really thinking about the amount that's the lesser amount that's going to be taxed.
Right.
So it's not as much as you think it would be.
Right. Unless you're using a Roth. And I know we don't have time all day.
We can talk about that just a little. I know we have on previous shows. Just real quick, talk about the difference between a traditional 401k and a Roth.
Okay. So the Roth is going in after tax. So if your 3% of your salary makes it $100 coming off of your paycheck, in the traditional 401k, which most people use, you may only see a difference at the bottom line, what you take home of $70.
Okay.
But at the Roth, you're going to see that $100 come off of that paycheck at the bottom. So what you took home.
Okay.
Right? So in the traditional, you save it for 20, 30 years, and it's all taxable to you when you retire. In the Roth, you put it in after tax, and you save it for 20, 30 years, and now it's all tax-free to you in retirement.
So a little bit of tax now
means a lot of extra money to spend because, again,
later
in retirement, part of what you're going to do is spend this money you're saving, and if you can do it with less taxes, it's going to help your income each month.
Okay. So is there anything else I can do? So I do the 401k at work. Do I need to be doing something else to get to that number?
You need to do all you can.
Okay, give me some other options. Give me some other options.
So you can do another IRA outside of your 401k. So you can do your own IRA. There are folks out there who maybe have learned about Robinhood or do E-Trade, where they're just buying individual stocks. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about the differences. But, anything where you've got extra money that you're able to put away on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis or on a yearly basis and save it for a long period of time. Long can be 5 years, long can be 25 years. But when you're able to put money away and not use that money, not need it for an emergency fund, not need it for your current bills, then you want to use something that's going to help you save that money with better earnings than the CD at the bank.
Preferably something that you can't tap into as easily as you can, like a savings account.
Exactly.
So,
So
I
a
know we like to
retirement
dip in those.
plan or a brokerage account, those things are just ways to put money away, not have access to them because your debit card doesn't work on your brokerage account.
Right.
So put it away, leave it there, and invest it. Not just in that 1% savings account that right now is not even paying 1%. You want to put it in something that's going to earn interest.
So when you get your 401k enrollment forms at work, they have all these different options. How do I know which one to pick? Because nobody is there to help me.
Right.
So
Yes.
I just, most people just ask their neighbor, well, which one did you get? And then they say, oh, I got that one. And so most people are like, okay, well, I'm going to get that one too. But is that,
Not necessarily. So the good thing that 401k plans have moved towards are what's called like a freedom fund or a retirement fund, where they actually say, okay, if your retirement target date is 2040, then we're just put your money in this fund.
and that's basically your age, based on your age.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you're 50 right now and you plan on retiring at 65, so the 2035 fund that they have already
Does it for you.
it does it for you. It spreads it out
Okay.
over all these different places in the market, some international companies, some U.S. large cap, small cap companies, some bonds, and it's going to make it more conservative as it gets closer to that retirement age.
So I want some stocks. Can I do stocks in my 401k?
Not generally, no.
What's the difference between a stock and a mutual fund for our listeners?
Okay. So the mutual fund, now you do have stock funds in your 401k. So in your mutual funds, it's generally a portfolio of, 100 to 300 stocks.
Okay.
And that might be Amazon and Facebook and Kroger's and AT&T and Ford are all in one fund that you're buying
Okay,
into.
so one big basket,
One
if you
big
will.
basket
You
of
got all those different companies.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so in a 401k, you have several different types of funds. Like we were talking about, the target date or the retirement fund is actually a fund that's going to pick those for you. There's other funds that you do have options to say, okay, I want to be in this growth fund or this technology fund. There's
Right.
funds like that in there. If you want some help with that, again, talk to your financial professionals. But if not, take the 2035, 2045 fund and just start investing in that.
If somebody brought their 401k enrollment to you, can you walk them through that?
We can help.
Are you
Yes.
able to do that?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
because I don't want to get too technical for our listeners, but what I want you to encourage you to do, if you are confused, seek out a financial professional and they will walk you through it and make it more understandable to you. Because I'm a big believer that you need to know what you're investing in and you need to know where your money's going. So all those things can help you to get there once you know where you want to go. And once you've got that amount that you're able to save, then we can help you to get there along that path. So next question is, can I get there? The answer is yes, you can with a little bit of work. But how do I get there? So once I put my money in, I want it to grow really, really fast.
Yes.
Everybody
does.
wants it to,
It
you
to
got
double.
10 more years to retirement and you put in $100 a month and you want to end up with $500,000.
Exactly.
Is that going to happen?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay.
So no. So that is with that answer to can I get there. Most of the times it's yes, but sometimes it's no, and that would be a no.
Okay.
But if you did have a reasonable goal that we could work towards, and you do have funds that you can put towards that goal, that's the big thing. Is
Okay.
again, you got to figure out: do I have an extra $100 to save towards this goal? Do I have an extra $50 to put in my 401k to get closer to this goal? But also, am I investing in the right investments? So I know we were talking a little bit about the funds, but based on interest rate, so the only way to get money from $100 to $1,000 is with some type of earnings rate, and it's got to be more than 1%.
Because it has to outpace inflation
Has
too.
to outpace inflation, exactly, and it probably has to take on some level of risk. And sometimes, right, we're not always ready or willing to put money away, let it fluctuate because it will fluctuate in the market, leave it there even as it fluctuates, and then you will see that growth over time. It may not happen in 1 year because the market may go down. We just saw the market go down a lot. But it may happen over 5 to 10 years, and it will exponentially grow because as the higher the interest rate you get, average, 8%, 10%, your money is going to double.
Which is another reason why we have to start early. When you're in your 30s, I always tell my clients that's really your prime time to start accumulating cash because time is on your side.
Yes, yes.
So
I'll run a couple numbers down to you.
Okay.
Everybody says, so we were talking a little bit about Dave Ramsey, and we were talking about, should you pay off all your bills before you start to invest?
Good question.
And the answer is really no, because how do you get there is with long-term savings. So I always run these numbers. If you were putting $100 away for 20 years, you've put $24,000 away in just your basic growth fund or fund that's got some risk but also lots of return, then that $24,000 over that 20 years turns into about $74,000.
Wow.
But if you say, oh, I'm going to wait until I pay off, my student loan, or I'm going to wait until, I don't have a car payment to put an extra $100, and then I'll put $200 in because I'll have more.
Right.
And so you wait 10 years, and so the next 10 years you're putting the same amount in over that 10 years, so $200 a month. So you've invested $24,000, but now you've only got about $48,000. So even though that same investment is in there, time exponentially adds to that value.
So you lose quite a bit of income by waiting even 1 or 2 years,
Exactly.
let alone 10 years.
Yes. Even putting the same dollar amount in over that time period.
So if I'm trying to pay off my debt so I can get more, it sounds like it's better to just make sure you're paying your bills on time. But if you have a little bit extra, that extra might be to your advantage to start investing a little bit of it so that you can accumulate more on the back end.
Yes.
And and I know that's where a lot of women have to make a lot of decisions. That's when your wants versus needs come into play when we talk about the latte factor, because maybe you do have enough to pay off all your bills and you're spending a little extra money in the malls or at the coffee shop or in the restaurants. And we have to we as women, because we're living longer, we're more likely to be single at retirement, so we don't have another income to rely on. We have to make these conscious decisions right now in order for us to be comfortable at retirement.
That's right.
So that's the biggest challenge. So now we've got the roadmap to how to get there. How do I stay on track? That's the hardest part, because we can have the best laid out plans.
Yes.
I don't care if it's trying to get out of debt or trying to exercise or lose weight. We can have that plan just all mapped out.
Right.
But how do I stay on track? Help us here.
Okay. So part of it is really reviewing your plan.
Okay.
It's starting and not stopping, of course, but even as you start and potentially stop and you restart again, each year, if you have a goal to annually review your investments, again, I keep going back to the 401k plans, because the 401k plans have really set up this for you. And they actually, some of the Charles Schwab and Fidelity funds out there, 401k plans, they're calling their individuals on an annual basis. Now, maybe you don't call them back, I don't know, but that's part of it. It's really doing what you've got to do on a yearly basis to review all of that. Check
and we've got to do that.
And you have to do that. And that's how you stay on track, is going back and looking at, okay, this is what I said I was going to do. This is what I'm doing. Is it still working? And so whether it's with a financial advisor or with your plan at work, making sure you're looking at it saying, okay, well, I've got a 3% raise this year. maybe I should up my 401k by 1%.
Exactly.
So staying on track. Also, the annual credit report. Looking at that annually is important, because while saving money is the biggest part and impact on your financial your income in retirement, credit also affects how you're able to do the things you want to do and how costly it will be for you to do those. So that you can do annually on annualcreditreport.com. Look at that yearly. So staying on track is really about reviewing each year, if not more times than that a year, just staying on top of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much, Hillary.
No problem.
If you all have additional questions, I know we always have excellent topics. Please share this with your friends who you think might need to watch this. If you have additional questions, you can also email us at info@ssclive.org. Did I get that right, Sharon? And we will be happy to assist. So, Hillary, thank you again,
Thank you.
and we will see you all next week. Ta-da!